we wanted to talk today because I know that both of you have lived in Oakland for a very long time. I have lived in Oakland for a long time. Folks who are joining us have lived with us, lived in Oakland for a very long time. Bleacher Dave just wrote, biking, gardening, leading Black Liberation Walking Tour are ways I nourish my spirit. And let's give a big snaps up for that, like props to that. Um, we've been faced in Oakland over the many years with violence, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we have seen violence come into our community in the form on the war on drugs. We have seen different ways that economically the city has really brought violence to our communities. But we're seeing a lot of gun violence and a lot of violence that is coming really close to our homes, right? And impacting our schools and in different ways. When I was younger, I always thought of that there were just pockets of types of places where violence happened in Oakland. And I know that that's still the case. I mean, we still have the Blade, we still have, certain places in Deep East, certain places in West Oakland that we don't venture to and that people live through every day. But now it feels like it's all over. It's everywhere, and it could pop off in many different places. And we're starting to see this not just in Oakland, but across the country and across the world, where violence seems to be the answer to responding to our lives and the circumstances of our lives. And so we brought you two on to really talk about it, right? I think Vernetta, we live like 5 minutes from each other. You live down in Deep East Oakland and have for a while. And, there was the shooting that happened at Sojourner Truth School at Rosedale High School recently. And I know that impacted your family. There was also like a shooting that happened in my neighborhood. Right off Durant Square that also
Mm-hmm.
popped off this weekend. And so, and then, I know that those are things that have really impacted you, Vernetta. So I wanted to, you wanted to come on and share a little bit about the way that violence has really impacted you and impacted your family, and appreciate you being vulnerable to share that, right? And to have to retell that story in a lot of ways can be harmful. And so for folks, obviously we're talking about violence. So, this is a little bit of a trigger warning for folks. So, if you don't want to listen to those types of impacts, take care of yourself. We're all about you taking care of yourself and your people. And so, but Vernetta, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about your experience and what that has meant for you.
Man, bunch of trauma, a bunch of trauma. Um, as Liz did say, I am the lead of the daily team, and I was actually on a phone call with one of my team members and supporting her. I can't remember exactly what I was supporting her with, but I was supporting her. It was after hours, but I'm a real team player, so I'll go after hours with my team if necessary and needed. And so we was just talking about some things to support her for the following day. And in the midst of us having that conversation, you just hear like these gunshots just ring out. I mean, like very, very loud. And no, I'm not a gun expert, right? This is just me living in Oakland that I know these things. I haven't been to no gun ranges and haven't had no gun training or anything, right? This is all me just living in Oakland so that I can kind of tell what gun sizes and things like that. Like that's crazy, right? Haven't had no
That's
training
right.
at all, right? This
That's
is
what's up.
just this is just for me living in a neighborhood, right? And so clearly it was a high tech gun that was being used, because you can tell by the rounds that was coming off steadily and the loudness of the guns. And then you could tell that they let the whole round go off. And then you hear, right. And then you hear another gun, which I would assume was a retaliation shot back, or, survival, probably protecting themselves, whatever, whichever one of the two. And that one probably was like maybe a 9, or, a 45 or something like that, because it was more like the bop, bop, bop,
Pop, pop,
right?
pop. Yeah.
Yes. So it's like, okay, one of them is going to be not going to make it, especially with the pop, 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 right? And the one that's black, black, black. So the black, black, black one, it just, it took me back from when I was a kid, right? And I remember my mom always teaching us how to get down on the ground when we hear guns. So now here I am doing the same thing with my family. We're huddled up in the kitchen, just trying to get down for safety, and it was just crazy, because it was like in the middle of the night, and the sun is kind of, hold on, you guys, can y'all see me?
You're great. You're beautiful.
Okay, it was like the middle of the night, and it was just traumatic, because for one, I thought that it was coming into my house. That's how close it was. It was very, very close. So after, things kind of calmed down, of course, and then now the neighbors is coming out, checking on one another, making sure that we are all okay. And we noticed that it's actually in the back of our yard where the shooting was come from. That's why it was so loud. I mean, so close to me. So as we go around to check on the neighbors on the side and around it on Bancroft, because I'm on 90th, and then you turn right on Bancroft, right? So, hey, Rita. Um, and so you see a lady being hauled off in the stretcher. And then you see a white car as they're literally taping off the streets now, right? And you see a white car with the door open, but the man isn't coming out the car, And so in my head, I'm thinking, well, I know in any case, they're going to save the living, right, before they do someone that's already passed. And so it just that image is still in my head, just the
Right.
car sitting there with the door open, and we're across the street. And as all this is going on, you have an officer in the middle of the island, and he has his hand on his gun, and he's facing the crowd. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, like, why is the officer having his hand on his gun facing the crowd of the community that's out here checking on one another? Like, that just even made me feel even more creepier,
Right.
because I felt
It's
like,
like
okay,
added to the violence, right? It's like
yeah,
bring more violence.
exactly, from the one who's supposed to be supporting us.
Right.
I didn't feel supported. I felt like he was going to shoot next. Like he was going to shoot next. So that didn't give us, it didn't give me any safety at all. So, I just eventually just went on back in the house, of course, and just made sure that my surroundings was kind of okay. No bullets anywhere and things like that. Unfortunately, this is an ongoing case, especially where I am. I am in the deep of East Oakland. No, it don't get no deeper than this. The
Right.
deepest it go, you in another city limit, right?
Yep, that's right.
So it's like, this is every day for me, and it's always something going on. And it's just done got to the point where at first it was like, come on, to now it's just kind of like, it's normal.
Right.
It's
Right.
normal.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
Right.
That's a problem. Like, we shouldn't be just jumping on the ground and then getting up. And then now, kids got to go off to school. The parents got to go off to work. And I'm just glad that I do work for an organization that we're not just co-workers. We
That's right.
actually really care about one another, and we're able to reach out and express those things to one another, because that's the first thing I did, was went to our chat like, y'all, boom, 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 this just happened, and the support just came back rapidly, you know. And so that's probably the only outlet in talking to my family members that I have
Right.
at this moment, right? And so just imagine how some people don't have that in a place of a work, though. A lot of work is
Yeah.
not like that for people. So I'm very, very fortunate to be around people who care and love for me and my family. So that right there makes things a lot better,
Yeah.
but it's traumatizing. I have a 10-year-old son who feels as though that he has to protect me.
Yeah.
He always feel like we are in harm's way. And, that's not easy for a mother to watch him feel so protected over me all the time, you
Right.
know.
It's like
And
he's trying to find some control in this like uncontrollable situation, right? And
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And I think it's just because of the difference of I'm not into to like man woman type thing.
Right.
At the same time, this is a young man, and he naturally will protect, right?
He
And
wants to
so
protect his mama.
exactly,
Yeah.
yes. And so, even for that, it tears me up, because I know my son can actually get harmed himself. So now I have to
Right.
have that conversation with a 10-year-old, right, who's looking at
Ooh.
me and don't really understand what I'm saying, right? He doesn't understand
Yeah.
anything that I'm saying, because his attention span, for one, is like this, right? And he's ready to go play Roblox in Among Us,
Right.
Mm.
Right.
And
Right.
so,
And that's also, in some ways, is a coping mechanism, right? Like we wanna move to normal as quickly as we can because the violence or the experience that we have is just way too much, right?
mm-hmm,
I know and we want to be able to live in a world where like joyful things like playing Roblox and things like that is
mm-hmm,
what we live with. That's all we want to be worried about, right? And so
right,
I really appreciate you sharing that really very personal story, Vernetta. Like,
mm-hmm,
I don't want us to move past too fast. I want, I wonder if folks that are with us right now, that are watching this right now, just for that moment right now, like put your hand on your heart,
Mm-hmm.
like feel that,
Yeah. Whole
like
space.
feel that whole space. Um, we're not trying to move past this too fast right now because this is something that I think, the same way that like I watched my parents like live through years of war, right,
mm-hmm,
as a child and like the impact that had on my family. And then to also have grown up in Deep East Oakland myself, like that,
mm-hmm,
to hear and know, I know exactly what you're saying when you hear that shot, like you drop to the ground
yeah,
and what that means. And so like,
yeah,
everybody like rub your heart,
Mm.
bring some heat to your heart. And if
Mm.
you need to, like
Yeah.
just brush that off, brush it off, brush your
yeah,
body down, like give yourself some of that love and affection and compassion that you
Yeah.
need right
Hug
now
yourself.
just for hearing that,
mm-hmm,
right? and
mm-hmm,
and to and to send some love to Vernetta and her family
mm-hmm.
having to have experienced that.
And to
um
all of you, and all to all of you guys too, because I am
yes,
aware that this is not a me thing. This is a us thing. Like,
that's
like
right.
I'm pretty sure it was people here or on here that know about the shooting that I'm talking about. It
Right.
could have been one of their family members that was, a part of the shooting or was shot. Who knows, right?
Right.
And then what, to turn around a week later, right? And maybe it was a week later, and then I get the shooting about
At
Sojourner
Rudsdale.
Truth.
Yeah.
Yes, which my son's,
Right.
which my son attend. Once again, I'm on my way to work. To get to the daily team. I'm on my way to get to the daily team to, speak about Measure T and Measure W, and I get a phone call like they closed your son's school down. Is he okay? I'm like, yeah, he okay. I just left the house and gave my son a kiss.
Mm.
Yeah,
And
it was
he's doing homeschooling though, right? To
he's
be
doing
very clear.
homeschooling. Yes, to
Yeah,
be clear, all of the every student as Sojourner Truth are homeschooled.
right.
It was the other schools that are not though, which
Yeah,
is
Rosedale.
Rusdale and King of States.
Right. Right. That's right. That's right.
Okay. And so those were the students who were involved and the staffs up there who were involved.
Right.
Even though the children are online at school, we do go to the school and we get lesson plans and things like that. So,
Right.
thank goodness I didn't have that day to go pick anything up, you know,
Yeah.
thank
And
God.
I know a few people that work up at Rudsdale, and they were talking about how immediately OUSD moved to kind of masking it by saying that they were all adults, but they were all they except for I think the janitor and one other possibly a staff person. Everybody else that was injured. Nobody died, thank God, but
Thank
like that
God.
were injured, right? Were all students. And
Hmm.
I think, we brought Saabir on here to really, to talk. I mean, not to exclude you from that conversation, Vernetta, but,
Hmm.
Saabir really,
Listen,
we wanted to talk to you because, and bring you into this conversation because, one, there's this issue around faith, right? But then two, I think, a lot of folks are weaponizing
mhm,
this violence, right? Like we know that the city administration is Libby Schaaf, the
Hmm.
police department, all the police
mhm,
associations, the prosecutors, all those folks who really want to uphold this like criminal injustice system, right? Want to weaponize these moments of
right.
violence as a way to say, actually, we need that cop that has his hand on his gun in that community more.
Yeah.
And a lot of us that in some, and to be very real, right? Like we talk to people on the doors all the time. Like Vernetta, that's what the
Hmm.
daily team is for all of y'all who don't know. The daily team is our canvassing team. They do phone banking, they do door knocking. So
Mhm.
they're door knocking in all of these neighborhoods
Boots on the
because
ground.
nobody else does that, right? We're
So
on the
make sure
ground.
y'all answer the
Boots on the
doors
ground.
and answer the phones and be nice when we come to the doors and
That's
be
right.
nice when y'all talk to us on the phones.
Yeah, that's right. Be nice. Be nice. So, but I think like, they weaponize that as a way to say we actually need that
Mhm.
cop to stand there with his hand on his gun, looking at the
Right.
people living there who are just checking on each other. And I
Right.
wonder what your thoughts are about that,
Oh,
Saabir.
you know, I'm impacted in so many different ways in this conversation. There's so much that's coming up for me. And
Mm,
we started this conversation with what do you do to heal yourself? Or what are you
I
doing to
know.
nourish yourself, right? And in
Right.
this space, I'm literally centering myself because my body started to shake hearing that story.
Right.
And I had
Right.
to calm my energy. And so I would actually start this conversation off with, what I did introduce was J57212. I'll say it again, lock it, J57212. That was my name incarceration for over 2 decades.
Whew.
Just the name, I know what that street violence is. I know what that gang violence is. And part of that end of that last conversation, what came up for me was the fact that you have people, like I say, they said it was all adults. And that's just another way of throwing something to the side. So it was all adults, it's okay. I mean, it's just these are the type of conversations that happen that leads into like this misnomer that we need to police, or the police
Right.
are our first resource that we need to um, go to for community safety or public safety. And that whole concept of public safety and police don't even go together. First and
Right.
foremost, that's the analysis that's twisted, right? We think that some violence happened to public safety, increasing public safety or decreasing recidivism come from police. No,
Right.
police are here to police, capture, subdue, and lock up. That's what the police is here for. Public safety actually comes from investment in community. So I think that it's the understanding of we have historical disinvestment, we have racial capitalism, we have patriarchy. Like our communities are impacted with so many different things that each have their own analysis to them too. But
Right.
combined, it's just a melting pot for what we see exemplified in Oakland. And and then not even Oakland, but uh, the world. Like this gun violence, the increase of kids using guns is just a constant increase that's happening around the world. That's a problem within itself. So we have to look, I think, look at the root causes of this. And the root cause of violence is, the lack of resources or lack of investment within our communities that actually will provide the opportunities for other avenues, because
Right.
that's what we're really talking about when we talk about coping skills and kids using guns. I was at a
Mm-hmm.
restorative justice circle last night, right? And it was called like the agenda to end hostilities. And it was someone told me a story about a kid who was 9 years old. Kid got shot in front of his house, and there's a 9-year old shot a 7-year-old. And when the
Mm.
community came together to see what was going on, the 9-year-old said, "Oh, he's only alive because I was really trying to hit his brother who was 13."
Wow.
Like this level of like violence and like angry,
Wow.
Whew.
And then so I started with Lockett J57212 is because in my
Mm-hmm.
own story and reflecting it to like what we seeing today, there's a thing called revolt and there's a thing called revolution,
Mm.
right? And then they get misconflated because revolt, and I'm going to give a little definition, because revolt is like how you oppose an existing structure or status quo without intending to replace it,
Mm.
right? And then you have revolution where you bring into the concept of strategies and tactics, and now we're trying to change the status quo and replace that unjust system with a just system, right?
Mm.
Similar to abolition. But the thing is that I talk about that because gangs are kids. We need cultural competency to meet
Mm-hmm.
them where they are and to hear what they have to say about why they are the way they are, because they're revolting without knowing why. They're angry, they're
Yeah.
Mm.
frustrated, they're getting all
Yeah.
these impacts the same way we're getting it. When we talk about, even at eBay, it's about worker justice and the
Right.
holistic approach, you know what I'm saying, and having a job as an opportunity not to go to jail. That's the thing. It's like, what are all that we feel, our kids are feeling that 10 times more without a
Mm-hmm.
mechanism. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're just
Right.
speaking about, who do I go to? Who do
Right.
people turn to?
Right.
Right.
Imagine what our kids are thinking when we feel that
Exactly.
way. You know what
Exactly.
I'm saying? And no mechanism to deal with those emotions and stuff. So then they revolt without any type of direction or even understanding what they're revolting against. Where this
Right.
anger coming from?
Right.
So, and it is. So I just say that to say, and then that become tools of the American imperialism and the whole system and status quo to weaponize community violence to justify the use of police.
Yeah.
And it's just completely backwards. And I think we just need to speak truth to power, and then
Right.
Mm-hmm.
especially from a faithful perspective, because we got to understand also that the policy pieces can get convoluted in argument and dictation and
Right.
electoral, like who's running for office, and that
Right.
become a tool
Right.
for folks to run for office. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? When what we really talking about
Say
is
that.
the morality.
Right.
That's the word. That's the
Right. We're
word.
talking about the morality of our situation, the human condition of our situation.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
that is the thing that needs to be addressed. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
again, like I say, like we need to continue to get the message out, the real message about what's happening. You know what I mean? We get, our daily teams out with Open Rising,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
folks that's engaged, come out, support, speak truth to power, show up at these different like candidate forums, make a difference so they won't weaponize our pain and our trauma against us.
That's
Because
Right.
right.
that's what they're doing. They're using our pain, our trauma, they're using the oppression that they have impressed upon the communities for decades upon decades. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Right.
Slavery, before slavery, land appropriation. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
all of this stuff against us.
Right.
And then we get caught in our pain. You know, like
Right.
we get caught in that pain and that feeling, and then
Mm-hmm.
almost become numb ourselves. So there's also this thing about getting numb to the violence and things getting normalized, and we
Right.
should be in shock and awe when time
That's it.
anybody
Yes.
die,
Right.
anytime anybody's happened. We shouldn't accept, oh, them was all adults. Well,
Right.
who cares, man? People are dying.
That's right.
Right.
People are
That's what's up.
shooting. Yeah.
And the thing is that, and then, and I don't know if any of you all are on Twitter or, just in like whole social media universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a weird place to be in and of itself in these conversations, but you just hear the conversation. It is either this or that. And that is not actually
That
what's
part.
being said, right? Like that is a tool of white supremacy. That is a tool of capitalism. That is either this or that. And we're not saying that ultimately, yes, we want abolition. We want a new system. We
Mm-hmm.
want this to be gone because this system has caused so much oppression, has caused this type of trauma, right? And the system likes to blame it on individuals because this is an individualistic
Right.
society.
Mm-hmm.
They're just crazy. They're just this. They are blah, blah, blah. All of the racist tropes that people use, right? But
Yeah.
but what they also like to say is the answer is only this, which I also think in some ways like has to do with Christianity. It's like it's only this way. There's only one way
Mm-hmm.
into heaven. Here's the door,
Right.
right? And in reality, like the conversation should be, and not to say that Christianity is not right in and of itself, but the way that is used to control people
It's
and
not
to
good.
imprison them, right?
Right.
Is
Right.
then we say is they're bad, they're sinful, they're whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
let's just put them away so we don't have to
Right.
see them. Let's just banish them to this place called hell or prison,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
then we don't need to think about them. But like the conversation really needs to be about like, well, what is causing this and what are we dealing with? And how do we deal with like the individual? Oh, family love it. Like,
That's the community. They love me.
see,
Mm-hmm.
like that people can come out and have conversation about like we can talk about violence interrupters, we can talk about less police, we can talk about these things, we can and we should be talking about all of it. And to blame it on one thing, defund the police is the problem, or these crazy kids are the problem, or greed is the problem, that we should be all talking about it at all angles and should be like, we need to be all at all levels be working on this because
That's
this is
real.
something that this is something that we need to see happen. And when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to the city, we need to be talking about this city needs to be putting down money because that money turns into resources that turns into people who are out there in the street, dealing with stuff, who are out there talking to people about this type of violence in our communities.
Mm-hmm.
So I just hope that the conversation and what we would like to do is really move away from like, it is this only the answer. Cops are
Yeah.
not the only answer, y'all. Right?
Like the blame game. The blame
Yeah.
game. The
Yeah.
blame game. Whoever you can blame it
Mm-hmm.
on, let's pick that. And it doesn't get us anywhere.
No.
No.
And the separation doesn't get us anywhere. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we kind of figure that out, can get that in a perspective, then we could probably, move forward. But it's like we're the ones who are gonna have to like be foots to the ground to kind of like implicate those type of thing in place. They want to see people like us, no, like you said, no one is coming to these areas and having these conversations because no one really cares.
No.
Let's just
No.
be honest. No one
Yeah.
cares. And so that's why when I am in District 6, in District 7, I love being in those areas because that is my area. I played in those areas as a kid. Right? My kids ran around in those areas as well. Like all my family, cousins and aunties, like that's my area. And so to be able to give back, it's amazing. But it's like, this is something that has to be done every day or every other day. Like now, like how we're speaking up on it, it can't stop at Monday's meals. It has to
That's right.
continue.
That's right.
It has to
Yeah.
continue.
That's right.
And we have organizations, and we have non-organizations, just community leaders that's not, connected with an organization, just out here on their own. I will call them freelancing organizing, right?
That's what's up.
And I mean, and that's great,
And that's the thing, right? Is what you're saying, Vernetta, is that like there are the people who are in position of power that don't seem to care.
Right.
Right. And then those who say they do are using this as a way, using our fear as a way to like maybe get themselves ahead.
Yes.
But what I hear you also saying, Vernetta, is that people do care. Like our community cares, right?
100%.
Right? Our organizations care. Like there are people who are doing that work.
Yeah, and there's people doing that work that actually need to be invested into. When we were doing West Oakland cleanups over down in the bottoms, 7 in Peralta, Prescott Elementary, bringing the community together, talking about stop the violence, implementing community cleanups, talking to the community. They're out there wanting something different. And I think you spoke to a thing about people actually feeling empowered to do so.
That's right.
We have the ability, the power, and the authority to do so. But through various different mechanisms, society has disempowered and made people feel like they don't have the power. And we need to rely on these corrupt systems to control our lives when they're actually accountable to us. So talking about elected officials using gun violence and stuff like that, and using our pain, weaponizing it against us to further police us, as well as just to simply try to get elected or throw shade on someone else who is running for office, we actually have the power to can hold that accountable because we put them in office. And and even more so because we're talking about communities, especially when we're talking about like trying to multiple different things and talking to the community about systems change. There's that thing about the voter that don't vote. When honestly, the most impacted
that's one of the things that really
have the voice. And we are the majority. We are the majority.
We are the majority in this city. The flatlands are the majority in this city. And when people say that the flatland folks, black and brown folks and Asian folks and immigrant folks, they don't vote. You know why they don't vote? Because you don't come talk to anybody.
That's right. That's right.
And that they don't go knock on those doors. They're like, when you show up at their door, like, oh, yeah, talk to me about it, because no one's talked to me about this, because I want to tell you something.
And the system haven't created the space for them to be empowered to do so.
Exactly.
It becomes on us to go educate, re-educate. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was miseducation, so now let's put forth the education necessary to empower the people to know that they have that voice and to show up and show out.
And you know what? It starts with you first, right? Because I am that person who no one never came to speak to about politics. My mother was a very religious lady who just separated herself completely from politics. So it wasn't in the household. No one didn't teach it at the schools, right? No friends didn't know. It's like, it just never came my way.
And the system never did nothing anyway.
It wasn't until I got older, right? I was a grown woman, and then this is when politics came my way. But what I did was, I changed that. Like me and my kids, we sit down and we have those conversations. We vote together. Even my 10-year-old, he don't have a clue what's going on, but still, he's still in that space though.
He knows it from his lens.
He knows something is going on, but I'm just saying, like, but still, he's going to catch on because he's in that space.
Right. That's right.
I keep him with me.
And that's the thing too, right? Is that what we're talking about is like, what they're saying is like, just these individual people need to change, or we need to put this individual away, or whatever. But the thing is that it does begin, and we're not saying you don't have individual personal responsibility. You do. You have personal responsibility. Everybody has a personal responsibility, but then we got to go beyond that. We got to be like, just like you are talking about, you're like, oh, very, very micro to myself, individual. and I'm talking
Mhm.
about to my family, and then you, the Vernetta, talking about the level of community that you built on your block, right?
That's
Why
right.
your neighbor can walk up on you while you're on IG Live and hug up on you, right? It's
Right.
because you build community, and that's at a macro level, right? And then
Yeah.
we're also talking about at a higher level, right?
Mhm.
Where
Mhm.
we are talking about the city. So you participating in Oakland Rising and like door knocking in neighborhoods. And just to let folks know this too, that our canvassers, like Vernetta was saying, they come from these neighborhoods. So we're walking on door, knocking on doors, and we have gunshot like down the street from us too, right? And so like we're talking about that, and then what's the connection then that we all have? It goes both ways, right? As
Yeah.
individual, you can impact the system, and the system is impacting you. So if you're not participating, it's time for you to participate.
That's right.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's right. It's
and
time.
some structural. We need structural change. I
Mhm.
do
That's
need to
what's up.
create policies to give the power back to the people, give them authority over the situations. You know, that's the thing that we need as well. And I think, and when we're talking about violence in the community, especially, just want to tune it back into our youth, because I
Mhm.
think that's the devastation that a lot of us are feeling right now, and the pain. You know,
Yeah.
Right.
'cause I have a son. You know, he's 3.5 years old, about to turn 4, and when I
Mhm.
see police violence
Mm-hmm.
against, our youth, when I see violence upon violence against our youth, I'm like, let's get them in a round table. I mean, straight up.
Yes.
Like, we talk about those closest to the problem had the solutions. Our kids know what the problem is. Because, like
That's
I
Yes.
right.
say, I'm J57212 for 2 decades, right?
Right.
And
Mm,
that
Right.
was 91,
Right.
18
mm,
years old. You see what I'm saying? So my
Mm.
cultural awareness, 19, it's a 19 back then, I mean,
Mhm.
1991 back then is different. A lot didn't change for an 18-year-old today.
right.
Yes, sir.
So I can be probably in a position to help create some change, influence some change. But if we ain't talking to them kids, then we thinking for them.
That's right.
Exactly.
And
That's
when
right.
we do work, we go talk to the people to figure out what the problem is, and then we can try to implement the change and create space for them to live into their leadership. And that's
Well,
what we got to get back into.
I want to give some big ass props to the orgs that are doing that work, right? There are some orgs that are really doing that work. So Communities United for Restorative Youth Justice, they have several programs,
Mhm.
Dream Behind Bars, Homies for Justice, that are
Mhm.
doing like policy work, young people who are doing policy work, talking to voters, talking to people in their community, doing violence interruption. I want to give big props to Urban Peace Movement. They're also doing that work. They're on the street always talking to young people, and really fighting the system at the county level, not only at the county level but the city level as well, right? There are
Mhm.
many organizations that are plugged into that work, and BOP, Black Organizing Project. Let's give big props to them because they're actually doing organizing with Black students, and
Mhm.
their families, and so. And they focus on Black families, and I think we
Mhm.
need to know that. I think that's one of the messages we do not hear clear enough. They're sort of, it is dire, you all. It is dire. It is not. We are not trying to minimize at all the level of violence. Obviously, we talked about it in this program and in this event together, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
like, but that there are people every day, right, who are grinding in Oakland, who are grinding in Vallejo, who are grinding in the city, who are grinding like all over this Bay Area, right? Really every day trying to figure out and work with people, work with young people about how do we deal with this violence? How do we do the work that needs to be done? And our job here at Oakland Rising and, with eBase and other parts of our collaborative is to really push on the city and say, where's the money? Where
Mhm.
is this money really going? And we need more money in violence prevention. We need more money in arts and culture. We need more money in our libraries. We need more money in our parks, right? Because
Yes.
that's where also we need those
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
And in order for us to continue to feel safe, to not only just feel safe, that is the bare fucking, excuse my language, the bare minimum, but it is also like that we need to know what joy is.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
also feeling safe isn't necessarily connected to violence. Feeling safe is I got food to eat. Feeling safe is I got enough money. I would get sick. I can
There
go
you
get some
go.
help.
There
I
you
got
go.
mental health support.
That's
That's
the word.
also feeling safe, right? Because that's
That's the
that
word.
transition into
Yes.
against this misanalyzation that we need to police is also transparency in the budget processes in the city, right? Because with the police already receiving 60% of the general fund, and anybody talking
Mm.
about they want more police, where you gonna get it from? You gonna take from our parks, our rec? You gonna take from our youth? You gonna take
They
from our?
getting 60%.
You gonna
Like how much
now you gonna
more?
take them to 80%, and now the community have no
Right.
support after all. For I mean, it doesn't make sense. There's no
and
money
then and then
to
what
fill
happens
that
with
record.
that, yeah, so what you all should know then is that's why then in order to be able to have our extension of our to be able to have our libraries be funded, in order for us to pave our streets, in order for us to have a zoo that's accessible, in order for us to have all of these things, what do? We tax you more. We put
Right.
a parcel tax on you. We put regressive taxes on us.
Right.
We like we tack on a half-cent sales tax so that we could get a little bit more because we are not prioritizing the things that need to be prioritized. And so,
Mm,
that's why ballot measures are important for you to
Mm-hmm.
understand. That's why this electoral process is important for you to understand because it's not just about your vote. It's about what do you do with that vote and what does that vote do for us? And so
mhm,
as we think about that, as we think about the ways that we could have a whole new system, y'all,
mhm,
imagine that. Imagine what this world and what the city of Oakland would be like,
Mm.
where we
Mm,
could
mm,
have our
mm.
clean streets, where we could have our safe parks, where we could have libraries that we can go to, where we can walk down the street to go to the school of our choice and get the education that we need for free, not at anybody else's expense, that we can have housing, that we are not worried about evictions, that we
mhm.
live safe and free. Those are the things that we're all fighting for. So,
Can I
Right.
can I say something real quickly, Liz? And then
sure.
I have to jump off because I gotta
Yeah.
get ready for my
You got to,
next.
yes, you got to
But
get on them doors.
I just want to say a few things before I leave up out of here. One is I wanted to go back to what he said. We have to stop with this whole children are to be seen and not heard. That has to
Mm,
stop immediately. This has
Yes.
been going on for a long time. And not only would violence probably stop, but a lot of other things that I'm not going to tap into that happen to our
Yes.
children that are very, very seriously and should be probably on another topic, with sort of abuse and things like that. Like
right.
this is some of the reasons why we're dealing with these things because we feel as though they don't have a voice.
That's
And
right.
they do. Listen to your kids. Even if they're 5, his son is 3. Even at 3, they usually you can barely understand, but just try, because that's going to be important to let them know that their voice are important because that could be our next leaders. But if we hushing them and dumbing them down,
That's right.
then they're going to be like that as an adult. It's not going to be until they get that light bulb that
Mm,
come off that say, hey, wait a minute now, I could have been doing this. But we don't want them to
yes.
wait. We want them to come off that way from the
Yes.
jump. Other
That
than
made
that,
me think. That made me think of Senna. Senna, my younger child tried to say to me, my critical thinking skills aren't fully developed until 21. So I'm
yes,
just saying so when I mess up, just know. And I was like,
right,
okay,
Mhm.
you're
right.
smart enough to know that data, but you're not smart enough to clean up your socks. Like we're okay.
Mm.
These
We'll be all
kids are
right.
smart. They're very smart.
Yeah, they are.
It
And
was
they just need
nice
our
to
guidance.
meet
That's
you.
another piece.
It was
Thank you,
so nice to
Vernetta. Thank
meet you,
you.
Sabir.
For
Thank you,
sure.
Liz. It was such an
Yes.
honor and a pleasure to be here.
Yes. Thank you
And
for sharing your story, Vernetta.
goodbye,
Thank
you
you.
guys. Thank you, everyone that's watching. You guys have a great one. I have to go, though. Take
Thank
care,
Bye.
you.
everyone. Bye
Thank
So thank
bye.
you everybody who joined us today. I really appreciate you. Thank you, Vernetta. Thank you, Saabir, for joining us. You can go to
blessings.
oaklandrising.org if you want to donate, oaklandrising.org/slash donate. You can also check out our a voter guide that talks about our ballot measures. And And join us next week on Monday Meals again. And we really appreciate you all for joining us. Share this widely with everybody that you're talking to. Know that we have 28 days till this election is over, y'all. Get with it. Check out our voter guides, and you should be getting your ballot in the mail. And know that with ranked choice voting, you only have to vote with your heart. Vote with what you know, what you believe in, rather than voting for what to fill in all of the slots. And so vote with your values and your progressive values if they are. So appreciate you all. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.